Went to the junkyard today and picked up some new A-pillars for the Subaru, and they wouldn't let me bring. They allow sawzalls into the junkyard, but no oscillating tools. So I snagged this dash corner that I had to cut out with flush cuts. That way I can 3D model it in CAD and make my dash mount mid ranges. And then I'm going to move my tweeters from the sail panels to the A-pillars and get them further back and more on axis. So I'm going to be doing a video on both of those. The dash pods are going to be mostly CAD, and then the tweeters are going to be mostly analog. So I printed up the adapters for the tweeters, and they bolt through the back. So once this is affixed, you'll be able to mount the tweeter in that way. And then this is the so I had the Legends, but the MP28.3 is the exact same. So this is what I'm going to be using for a reference to make sure everything fits. Yeah, so let's get into it. I'm going to go through that process. I don't know which one I'm going to start with. So, see if I can see it on here. At the junkyard, I made this small little scratch for a reference because when this was sitting in the car, it's also kind of nice that I have both of these, that way I can kind of take a look at how it's going to look in the car. But anyways, when I have this in here, there is the gauge cluster is really tall in the Subaru. So this is at or above the gauge cluster level, so I'm going to try and go at least that high to try and avoid that, kind of getting over top of that. But I'm hoping I can push it back as far as possible to kind of get closer to the mid-range back there. So I'm not opposed to different suggestions for if I should move it down lower and back, whether they're closer together, or if I should focus on clearing the gauge cluster. Another thing was at the junkyard, when I look behind there, pretty much from this clip point downwards is completely open. There's no wiring or really anything like that there. And then above is where the airbag is. So my mark here, it's directly below this. So if I make this come down just a smidge, then I should be able to clear all airbags and recess that in as deep as I want. I have gone ahead and just kind of outlined this mark. I did this mark on the bottom of the way. It's kind of the one I'm putting it on my dash piece where I want it to sit, how deep it's supposed to sit. So here is the mark that I made to clear the thing. This is kind of just like this body line of the pillar. It's kind of where I'm thinking about mounting it, is along that body line. And I think right here, kind of this point being center, should mostly clear this, which should make sure I don't have to worry about any issues back here. I still have this clip to use. So I think I'm going to sink it in right around there somewhere, as deep as I can possibly get it. Yeah, so then this is around where I wanted it with this mark, and then I just took a straight edge and, top and bottom, top bottoms. I'm going to put it here. It's easily repeatable. So this is the axis that I wanted to fire on. I just kind of roughly trace the shape of this. That way I can cut out a rough hole here and then work on tucking it back in and see where I'm going to go from there. All right, I'm at home, and I don't feel like waiting to go to the shop. So I got this. I'm just going to try and cut this out roughly. That way I can keep fucking with it. My plan is to just cut this line and maybe cut from here in an angle, and then, yeah. Let's see if that was enough. It sure was. Ta-da! Let me see if this fits. Almost. It's gonna take a little bit more out of the back here. Alright, if it's that way now, it just needs to be a smidge. So I want it deeper than that for sure. It just needs to be a little bit, so. Come on, take me. And I'm not really too pressed with the finish of this, obviously, because it's all going to get sanded and body filled and all that jazz. All right, so now I can pass it through all the way, which is good enough for me. Now I can figure out, now from here, I can take a step back inside and figure out where I want it mounted depth-wise, and then yeah, and go from there. So I had a gut feeling that my angles were wrong, so I took it out to the car and just popped it in real quick. I was definitely wrong about the angle, so I'm glad I did that. But I'm thinking right here that is kind of where I'm going to have it. Say it doesn't clear the steering wheel, but it still mostly clears the cowl, and it's kind of not really going to be in the way. But I'm thinking, and that's also not too far from the mid-range is going to go there too either. So this is wrong, but I'm going to redraw this probably more up this way, and yeah. So here's where I'm at for part one. So the cut's a little rough, especially back here. It took a lot of trial and error to get it kind of exactly where I wanted. But this is where it's going to live. So now I'm taking suggestions as to what method I should use to glass this in. Like, should I use like the popsicle sticks, like all the way around, maybe just a couple of them, the like thin strips of wood that are bent. I'm open to suggestions. So yeah. So I've never done like analog pillars or anything like that. I like the ones that I have in my car. I kind of 3D printed them and played around with that. That was my first rendition of, pretty much I learned CAD doing those. So it was my first time, but I wanted to try it by hand. So that's why I'm kind of doing both, because I prefer CAD, but I also kind of want to prove to myself that I can do them analog. And so I'm open to suggestions for what the best method might be for glassing them in. Yeah, let me know what you want to see next. And I didn't do this in my last video, so I gotta say thanks, Ethan, for coming to the junkyard with me today. Otherwise he gets cranky. Thanks.